Marvin Gaye had become addicted to cocaine, declared bankruptcy, and endured 2 failed marriages, and he eventually attempted suicide.
As I look back at my defeats and my problems and all of the things that I can sink into depression about, I can also look back and I can think of all the blessings I've had.
Marvin Gaye found solace in music at church and believed he could win his father's love through singing.
You know, his father shot him.
Imagine being killed by your own parent. That's what happened to soul musician Marvin Gaye. He was an essential part of Motown records in the 60s, but even his stardom couldn't save him from his toxic family and his monster of a father. Even though Marvin's father was charged with murder, it can't ever bring his son back or erase the traumatic ending to Marvin's life. So let's get into it. Celebrities are people too, and sometimes they die in tragic ways, but one of the worst stories I've come across involves Marvin Gaye. You guys may not have heard of Marvin before, but he is a big deal in music, and unfortunately his father took his life. Imagine your own parent killing you. In that moment, realizing that your father who raised you is also the person who has now taken your life, and you're probably in so much shock that that realization isn't even fully hitting you until, of course, it is too late. But we will get into the details of what happened. Before we get there, I want to talk a little bit about who Marvin Gaye is, because he was a big part of Motown records back in the 60s. Marvin was key in establishing their sound and the series of acts the label produced. He worked on the business side of Motown records until he ended up becoming a star himself.
I've waited a very long time, 20-some years, to win an award. My family, my friends, my children are out there. There they are out there. I love you, baby. My mom, I love everybody. Thank God. We love you. Stay with us.
Marvin was a part of the music industry for a long time and a big part of soul music. He became a star not only for his music but his commentary, and he was a well-known personality, but he also had his struggles with fame. Like many celebrities, Marvin struggled with drug addiction. He went through a nasty divorce, and he had some other problematic moments, especially when it came to his music, because people either loved him or they hated him.
The best thing that has happened to me in the last 20 years, perhaps, is that as I look back at my defeats and my problems and all of the things that I can sink into depression about, I can also look back and I can think of all the blessings I've had, and my blessings actually outweigh all of the negative things that have occurred in my life, and it's that fact that probably makes me happiest of all. I know somebody up there loves me.
Thankfully, Marvin was able to find some peace with the trauma he had experienced, but unfortunately, his life was taken way too soon, and by someone who should have never even considered killing him, his own father, who he's actually named after. He was killed on April 1st, 1984 after an altercation at his family home. Because Marvin was killed on April 1st, a lot of people didn't believe that he actually had died because it was April Fool's Day. At this point in Marvin's career, he had a comeback album, Midnight Love, and people started to enjoy him again, but he started to fall into some of the same bad habits, including using cocaine.
By 1981, Marvin Gaye had become addicted to cocaine, declared bankruptcy, and endured 2 failed marriages. Moreover, the IRS hit him with a massive fine for unpaid back taxes, and he eventually attempted suicide.
Marvin's situation kind of reminds me of Kanye West. I mean, he has his financial issues, his legal issues, his divorce problems, so he kind of reminds me of that in a way, and Marvin had a really hard time dealing with it all. His mental state deteriorated so badly that he'd wear a bulletproof vest at all times. He didn't wear one while he was on stage, but as soon as he got off, he put one on because he felt like someone was trying to assassinate him.
See, Marvin in the last few months of his life thought someone was trying to kill him.
Oh, the drugs are making him paranoid.
He was paranoid, and he thought someone was trying to kill him. He'd get on the elevator and punch every floor, so he wouldn't know what floor he got off on.
Oh, wow.
And he thought someone was trying to kill him, because the drugs had just taken him to that point, you know. So he gave his father the gun to protect the house, in case somebody came in there to get him, they could, you know, all that. So it was ironic, and I think about it all the time. I think about it now, and someone was trying to kill him.
We'll talk about that gun that was gifted in a moment. The reason why Marvin was at his family home was because his mother had gone through a surgery, a kidney surgery, so she needed someone to care for her. I don't know where Marvin's father was, but he was away until he came back, and that's when chaos all erupted. Now, it doesn't seem like Marvin ever really had a relationship with his father. It actually turns out that his father never really wanted him, so of course that takes them, they're beginning off to the wrong foot. I mean, the father doesn't even want the child, yet the child is named after him. It's just really sad and bizarre, and of course there's a lot of tension.
Even before his son was born, Marvin Gay Sr. already seemed to have a problem with him. Alberta Cooper Gay told David Ritz in his book, "My husband never wanted Marvin, and he never liked him." Marvin Gay Sr. even went so far as telling Alberta he didn't believe Marvin was his son. Gay's father was a minister in the Hebrew Pentecostal Church, but that didn't stop him from physically abusing his children or becoming violent when he overconsumed alcohol. Marvin Gay found solace in music at church and believed he could win his father's love through singing.
In this life, I love music, and music is my love. It's all I know.
If not for Gay's mother, Alberta, who consoled and supported her son, Gay himself claimed he might have died by suicide as a child. Instead, Gay, tired of his father's abuse, quit school at age 17, ran away from home, and joined the U.S. Air Force, which ended disastrously, with Gay faking a mental illness to get a discharge. Gay had gone so far as adding an E to the end of his name to distance himself from the man who had abused him his whole life.
So clearly Marvin did not want to have a relationship with his father, and even added a letter to his last name to disconnect from him. Though it did not stop their tumultuous relationship from playing out, because eventually Marvin's father took his own life. With one bullet to the chest, he was dead. Unfortunately, this pistol was actually a gift that Marvin had given to his father. So this gun that he gave to his dad the Christmas before was actually the same weapon that ended up taking his life. Marvin's relationship with his father had been bitter from his childhood. A strict Christian minister who punished his children. Marvin would even be bullied as a child due to rumors spreading through his community that his father was a cross-dresser. His father never approved of his career as a musician and resented him becoming the family's breadwinner. So clearly Marvin's father has really serious mental health issues. I mean, he not only killed his son, but he was jealous of him, he resented him, and now looking back at these old clips of them together, speaking in interviews, it's really eerie to know that this man had killed his son.
I'll never forget the day when you left home, when you got in that station wagon with Mr. Harvey's Fickle. And you bumped your knee on the door, looking up to tell me goodbye. And I went to you goodbye, and that's when you left home and things began to move there. And you went through a period of, I guess, little hardships, which is a part of a person's bringing them up and a part of their, building them up. And finally, when you first put out your first record, seemed to me, I was surprised along the way. I said, here's a dream come true. I had a lot of dreams about you, and I saw it didn't. And then after a year, he's doing the very thing that you told me he would do with that form of training. I'll never forget that picture, you getting in that car. You'll be surprised the feeling the parents has when they see their children leaving, going out in the world and not knowing. And in those days, juvenile delinquency was prevalent all over the nation. And we only thing we can get this feeling, I hope you don't go anywhere and get into trouble. So we had to live with that. I think you're a real wonderful person. I'm gonna give that to you. It's my son. And I'm proud of you, really am.
Even in that clip, you could see that Marvin's father seems a little bit less stable than he is. And tensions boiled over whenever Marvin was at his family home helping his mother out. He was actually there for an extended period of time, about 6 months, and there were plenty of fights. Marvin admitted at one point he wished he could make peace with his father because he only has one. But his father feels differently. He clearly has such a disdain for his son. He even told his daughter at one point that if Marvin had touched him, he would kill him.
His father shot him.
And you started crying at that.
Oh, absolutely. I could not believe that.
Did you know his father at all?
I never knew his father at all, period. To this day, I don't think I've ever met his father.
Yeah.
I always wished that I had known about his relationship with his father because it was turmoilic and traumatic for all of Marvin's life. I didn't find that out till he was dead. I always felt like if I had known that, maybe I could have talked to him and said, hey man, so-and-so and something,
No one could have stopped Marvin's father's wrath because he was mentally unwell and he always just wanted his son gone, so he took it into his own hands. Days before his death, Marvin's parents were arguing over an insurance policy taken out on their previous residence. And I guess at one point Marvin was upset watching his father yell at his mother, so he told him to leave her alone. But the argument continued, and Marvin's father charged upstairs, still yelling at his mother, which then Marvin jumped out of his bed to go and restrain his father. I don't know if his dad was going after his mother or charging at him. I mean, that would make sense why Marvin felt the need to restrain his dad. Marvin shoved his father out of the room, kicking and punching him in a frenzy. His mother said Marvin hit him. I shouted for him to stop, but he paid no attention to me. He gave my husband some hard kicks. Marvin's father returned upstairs with the pistol in his hand, the one that Marvin had bought for him, and shot him directly in the heart. She says, I was standing about 8 feet away from Marvin when my husband came to the door of the bedroom with his pistol. My husband didn't say anything. He just pointed the gun at Marvin. I screamed, but it was very quick. My husband shot and Marvin screamed. I tried to run. Marvin slid down the floor after his first shot.
Marvin was staying at his parents' house. He was taking drugs somewhat during this time. And I guess his father and his mother started to get into an argument over some insurance forms that he claimed that his wife had misplaced. They got into like a physical altercation. And then I guess Marvin got into some sort of physical altercation with his dad. His dad came in and shot him 2 times. And I guess when the police came and they asked what happened, and they asked his father if he loved his son, his father said, let's just say I didn't dislike him.
Now, because Marvin Gay Sr. murdered his son, Marvin Gay Jr., he had to go to trial for this. And he tried to play victim, saying, I didn't mean to do it. If I could bring him back, I would. I was afraid of him. I thought I was going to get hurt. Marvin's father said, I didn't know what was going to happen. I'm really sorry for everything that happened. I loved him. I wish he could step through this door right now. I'm paying the price now, which is very different than what he said in the past. I mean, I think he's trying to play up that he had loved him because he knows it could maybe help him in his case. And it looks like it was Marvin Gay Sr.'s lucky day, because due to the amount of drugs in Marvin's system at the time of their altercation and the bruises suffered by his dad, he was granted a plea bargain. So he avoided the murder charge after pleading no contest to a voluntary manslaughter charge on the 20th of September 1984.
Died a day before his 45th birthday. The final fight between Marvin Gaye and his father began on Saturday night, March 31st, 1984. Gay Sr. later alleged that Marvin Gaye had been punching and kicking him. Marvin Gay Sr. then left. Soon after, he came back into the bedroom and shot his son. Alberta called Gay's younger brother, Frankie, who lived next door. As Frankie held his dying brother's head in his lap, Marvin told him, I got what I wanted. I couldn't do it myself, so I made him do it.
This entire story is so traumatic, and I can't imagine how Alberta feels like watching her husband kill her child, especially after watching years and years of them just not getting along. It must be so heartbreaking. She ended up filing for divorce during the trial, and health issues forced his father into a nursing home soon after. He ended up living for 14 more years and died of pneumonia in 1998. When it was announced that Marvin had died, a lot of the fans were shook, and they showed out for him on April 5th, 1984, with more than 10,000 people attending his funeral service. A fellow Motown Records performer was quoted saying that when they found out, it was, quote, a very dark day that I'll never forget, as the day I lost a friend. Jermaine Jackson recalled crying uncontrollably after learning of Marvin's death. And Diana Ross later released a tribute song, Missing You, which featured live footage of Marvin in the music video. So, I mean, his death was a big deal, and of course everyone around reacted, especially because it was so tragic that his own dad killed him.
I'm a big fan of Marvin Gaye, and it's a real shame that it happened. You can't, I mean, what can you say when something like that happens? It's a tragedy.
When I first heard it, I said it was probably some derelict, some bum off the street that was envious of his accomplishments.
They're gonna be missed, not only by blacks, by whites too. All across the country, you're going to be missed because he made universal music.
While Marvin's legacy does live on, so does his tragic story, because there's really not many like that. But I want to hear what you guys think in the comments below. I am fascinated by this entire thing, and I just imagine like what the news was back then, like people talking about this and, you know, talking about what we do nowadays, just in a different way. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in a new one soon. Bye, guys.